Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. It's your host, Matt Zahab, and we are buzzing as always. Folks, we're a little bit richer. We're not as poor as we were a couple of weeks ago. We love to see it. Are we fully back? Don't know, but we're a little bit back. And it's a couple steps in the right direction, which is great news. And people are happy and buzzing again. Crypto Twitter is a fun place to be again. And we have a lot of spicy stuff going on in this world. And I cannot wait to get into it with the one and only Bobby Lee, founder and CEO of Ballet, the cryptocurrency company behind the innovative Real Series cold storage. Bobby is a true industry expert in OG and has been in the crypto space since 2011. He is also the author of Wall Street Journal bestseller, The Promise for Bitcoin, which I have read and lives on my bookshelf. It is an absolutely wonderful read. Do go check it out on Amazon if you'd like to snag it. Prior to founding Ballet, Bobby was the CEO and co-founder of the first Bitcoin exchange establishment in China called BTC China, which was later renamed to BTCC, which was acquired by a Hong Kong-based investment firm in January 2018. Bobby has done a whole lot of stuff in his career, was VP of tech for Walmart's e-commerce business in China, was the CTO of a new media company, and also did a whole bunch of other stuff, which we will get into later. Also started his career in Silicon Valley as a software engineer at Yahoo. I remember back in the day when Yahoo was the shit. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Also graduated from Stanford University with a BS and MS degrees in computer science and was a member of the Mayfield Fellows Program. And also serves on the board of Bitcoin Foundation. Holy crap, what a bio. I still got more to read, but I'm cutting it close. Bobby Lee, pumped to have you on, my friend. It was great meeting you in Austin and pumped to record with you right now. How you doing this lovely morning?
Great. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Pumped to have you on, my friend. Wow, what a bio that is. Let's jump right back to it. You have done a whole lot in the space. You're one of the probably couple hundred or thousand people that is actually a true Bitcoin OG and not, Fugazi who thinks he or she is an OG and original gangster. You are one of those. Walk us through the inception story. You've been in the space since 2011. I assume you bought Bitcoin in 2011 as well. How the hell did you get in so early? And how the hell have you also saved and not sold most of your coins as well? Give us the whole sort of Web3, Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain inception story for Bobby.
Yeah, so I started in 2011. My brother Charlie Lee, he told me about Bitcoin I think it was in the spring of 2011. So it's been a good 13 years. And back then it was about understanding Bitcoin as a decentralized asset and also about mining it. That back then it was we're just on the cusp of using GPUs and using FPGAs to mine Bitcoin. So I got involved in mining Bitcoin, set up a rig, motherboard with 4 graphics cards plugged in. And this was in the summer. I think kicked off my mining machine in the summer of 2011. And Bitcoin was, I think, in the $10, $20 range. So that summer I got to mine about, in hindsight, I think it was about 20 Bitcoins the whole summer. It barely paid for the electricity. Barely paid for electricity that summer, and then had to shut it down because it was heating up the room up too much. So didn't think too much of it in terms of from the mining perspective. In hindsight, of course, should have kept going, right? 20 Bitcoins is what is it? It's worth over $1 million today, right?
Yeah.
But who would have known, right? But in any case, in the early days, both Charlie and I, we were early investors in gold. So I bring this up every time because the best way to understand why Bitcoin is valuable is you have to understand why gold is valuable. Because gold, similar to Bitcoin, it's not backed by any country. It's not backed by any government. It's just out there. It's supposedly scarce and it's shiny material. And in that sense, Bitcoin is similar, very scarce, right? Fixed issuance, 21 million. And it's decentralized in the sense that anyone can use it. There's no permission needed. There's no authorization. You don't need to get a certificate or license or registration. You just use it if you can get your hands on it. And you can get your hands on it in one of 3 ways. You could either mine it yourself, use resources, in this case, mining machines to get Bitcoin, or you could buy it from someone, pay them money to give it to you. And the third way is to exchange it to get it goods and services. So if you do work for someone, if you perform goods, give goods, sell goods or give services to someone, and then they can exchange Bitcoin and pay you in that. That's kind of like payment in Bitcoin. So if you look at the history of money and gold, how gold became the de facto money globally throughout civilization across different regions, we think that Bitcoin will become that global reserve asset class. So it's been a fascinating journey over the last 13 years. Bitcoin has turned 15 years old this year. I remember Bitcoin in the early days, right? A lot of people, very few people knew it, very few people understood it, but it's gaining mainstream sort of awareness and acceptance. And I'm very, very excited this year with the ETF approvals, now with corporations putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets. I think countries are putting it in their national reserves, whether it's El Salvador or other countries. And in some other countries, like we recently heard Germany sold off some of their Bitcoins.
That might be ton. Hundreds of millions.
That might, in hindsight, be one of their dumbest moves.
Yes,
but it'll take a good 5-10 years for them to realize that.
Yeah.
Many countries actually do have Bitcoin already, not because they purchased it, but because they seized it from other criminal activities. So I forgot. I don't know if there's a official or guesstimate list of which countries have the most Bitcoin holdings. I think the US is up there, along with some other countries who have seized a lot of Bitcoin. So that's a fascinating sort of direction story in it of itself. So basically, I got into Bitcoin in 2011 and didn't do much with it, minded a little bit, started investing a little bit. One of the key reasons I didn't buy a lot in 2011 is because as a computer scientist, sort of geek, I couldn't find a way how to save it properly, how to store it properly, how to custody it properly. So I was hesitant to put in, whether it's hundreds or thousands of dollars, when I didn't have a good solution. Because back then it was notorious. People knew that the Bitcoin program that you ran, the Bitcoin wallet program that you ran in your computer, it was not even encrypted. The wallet file itself was plain text. So if anyone came over and searched your computer, or if you got hacked online, then your Bitcoins would be gone. So the whole concept of cold storage did not even exist in the summer of 2011, and that came later.
When did that pop off?
I think later that year, or 2012. I think one of the earliest cold storage software was something called Armory. It was a piece of software written by a few people I met. They're in Europe. Anyways, so Armory, for the old Bitcoin OGs, they all knew about the Armory software. It allowed for cold storage, air-gapped movement, signing of transactions. So that was really cool. But, it's been so long, Armory has sort of gone by the wayside. And then the hardware devices back then, like the ledgers and the Trezors, Trezor was actually the first proposed physical hardware cold storage. And that was a concept. I forgot what year it was announced, but it was announced, and then it didn't come on the market for a few years. It was announced, people were talking about from a theoretical perspective, they're trying to prototype it and all that stuff, but it wasn't really done until years later. And then back then, the only reliable form of cold storage was like paper wallets. So even then, that was basically, there was no truly good way aside from paper wallets to do cold storage. So one more thing is that summer of 2011, I committed to myself and a friend that basically if I ever came out to do a startup, I would do it in Bitcoin. And back then I was, sitting high, working at Walmart, VP of technology for the e-commerce stuff in China. So I was a corporate man. I wasn't a startup entrepreneur. But yet I planted a seed that if I ever do a startup, I want to do it in the field of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And sure enough, a year and a half later, I had the opportunity. I left Walmart. And at that time, I said either I could go back into corporate world and join another company, in a high tech position, or I could really fulfill my destiny, which is to do the startup in Bitcoin that I talked about. So that's when I took the second path and did the orange pill. And co-founded, got together with the two founders of BTC China, and became the third co-founder, became the CEO, and launched BTC China, got venture funding, and that eventually became the world's largest Bitcoin exchange by trading volume and all that. So that was very exciting path.
What a wild story. You mentioned a bunch of things. There are many ways to take this combo here. I want to jump into the ETF for a second. Bobby, the Bitcoin ETF has been a huge, massive success, in my opinion. I don't think the ETH ETF will have as much as an impact. Obviously, it doesn't have sort of first, mover advantage because there's already, a spot ETF in the market, i.e. in Bitcoin. And again, the narrative's different. The whole digital gas versus digital gold. I think that digital gold is much more compelling. It's easier for people to understand. And when you think of crypto, you think of Bitcoin. As soon as, if you were to play a word game and I say, Bobby, name me one crypto, you're going to probably say Bitcoin. I feel like 99% of the population is probably going to say Bitcoin. But with that being said, I'd love if you could talk about how insane the ETF has been, how good it's been for sort of a global adoption. The friggin' inflows, we're still hitting hundreds of millions of dollars inflows a day. And heck, it's 4 or 5 months later. It's absolutely incredible. You have a much better pulse on this than I do. I'd love if you could talk about how good of an impact it's been and sort of what you see and how this will play out over the months and years to come.
I don't necessarily have a true pulse on it. I'm not in Wall Street. I don't do that. But I have some insights. I think it's great. I think when I first wrote my book, The Promise of Bitcoin, it was published in, I think, 2021.
Yep.
And I wrote in there, I think it was 15 predictions. And one of them was about the ETF. And someone reminded me my prediction came true pretty much to the dot, which was I predicted that ETFs would be launched within 3 years. So if you have the book with you, I forgot what page it was, but essentially it came true, right? Within 3 years of the spring of 2021, in this case, 2024, the Bitcoin ETF got launched. So this is very exciting. It's a watershed moment because people have been following this, we know that there was so much resistance against a Bitcoin ETF, right? Whether it was the SEC or all the other people around it, Wall Street, they just were dragging their feet. They were just, by law and by regulation. Go ahead.
It made no sense. It made no sense.
It was crazy. It's by law, by regulation, there was no reason it couldn't be approved. ETF is just an exchange traded fund of some commodity, right? It's not like, right? There's ETFs for everything, right? For everything from coffee beans to gold to S&P index. There's synthetic ETFs. There's ETFs for like the shorting the market. There's this. Like why can't there be an ETF for spot Bitcoin, right? So it took a long time. I'm glad the U.S. market pushed it through, and the U.S. market really is a leader for the global market, right? And soon after, I think Hong Kong approved a few ETFs, and there'll be others around the world as well. And then started with Bitcoin, there will be, like you said, for Ethereum and for other digital assets. It's good. This is how Bitcoin grows up, right? Bitcoin turned 15, and that's when Bitcoin got its ETF, right? So I guess you need a few years under your belt.
No, it's so true there. And then, of course, the ETH ETF, which is hopefully going to come out, I believe it's next month, possibly later this month, which is incredible news as well. Great for the space. Speaking of sort of ETFs and the whole regulatory landscape, I'd love to jump into sort of Bitcoin regulations as a whole. You're obviously very versed in the whole scene in China, as you literally were the founding father of Bitcoin China. But I'd love to start with the USA, sort of, present day, what's been going on, regulations. Obviously, folks, Bobby and I are recording on Thursday, July 18th. By the time you're hearing this episode, it's going to be 1 week later on Thursday, July 25th. Last week, we had former President Trump, who got shot and got nicked in the ear with a bullet. Thank goodness he moved out of the way. Otherwise, that would have been just a gruesome and horrendous scene. Probably would have caused a civil war in the States. And it would have just been an absolute shit show of just incredible magnitudes that we haven't experienced probably ever in life. Thankfully, that didn't happen.
Yes, Trump, that was such a incredible intervention by higher forces. Amazing.
It was crazy. But long and short of it is Trump is pro crypto now. Last time around, he wasn't. Now he is. Last week, the Republicans also said that they are implementing crypto into their official party platform. This is huge news. And what did he do? He just announced that JD Vance is also coming on board as his VP. And folks, I did not know that much about JD Vance until he got, nominated. And then I did a deep dive on him. He knows more about crypto than like most of us, probably myself included. And this is my freaking job. This guy is a true crypto guy. He is a bit of a degenerate as well, which I absolutely love. He's got some shitcoins. He's got ETFs. He's got Bitcoin. He's got NFTs, you name it. But with all this said, Bobby, what is going on present day with sort of Bitcoin and crypto as a whole in the States? And then we'll sort of segue that and move over to China.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. For the first time, we have a presidential candidate who's officially backing Bitcoin,
Yes.
backing crypto. So looking forward to the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville, Tennessee, where Trump is scheduled to speak. I think that's very, very exciting. I remember many years ago, at one point, it was the mayor of Miami who spoke at the conference. For a mayor level politician to be pro crypto, that was the sort of the high watermark back then. And today, we're going to see a even much higher watermark at the presidential level, at the national level. And like you said, the VP candidate JD Vance, he owns Bitcoin, he owns crypto, pro crypto. So this is very exciting, and we're seeing this in the U.S. and this is not a first globally. We've seen it in El Salvador. We may have seen it in other countries. And this is a trend. I think it's an ongoing trend. We'll see more and more countries, governments, politicians, individuals, and people who embrace Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So it's a long road, right? This is not something that's going to turn on automatically. That's why I tell people, a lot of people criticize or are hesitant to buy into Bitcoin because they say, hey, this is not mainstream yet. How come XYZ are not on board? And I'm like, this is your opening. This is your chance, because if you read the tea leaves, if you follow the dotted line, you know where it's going. Bitcoin is going to become a global reserve asset class. It's going to be the common sort of global international settlement currency. It's going to be worth in the trillions, right? So, or maybe even tens and hundreds of trillions, rather. So don't wait until every country, every government, every politician, every corporation gets on board. If you get on board now, Bitcoin is at, what is it at? Is at $65,000,
yeah,
right?
65.
Whereas you wait until you have positive confirmation Bitcoin is it. Well, you could wait until then, and by then Bitcoin will be $1 million, $5 million. So it really it's up to you. Do you want to invest in an appreciating asset now, or do you want to just go in as sort of the mass when they go in when it's already too late after the fact?
Yeah,
and
well said
in
there.
terms of regulation, there are a lot of people who criticize the U.S. regulatory system for Bitcoin. Is fragmented, the state-by-state stuff, with New York being the most onerous with their DFS issued bit license, and then some other states are very laissez-faire and very easygoing. I don't see it as a problem. Now, for Ballet, we're facing that issue, right? For example, we're selling these physical Bitcoins, and we can only sell these to some like 25 states or regions, which allow us to sell them without the full licensing, right? These are called no action. We call it the no action letter states. We just tell them we're going to do it, and then there's no further licensing required. But whereas if you live in New York, you're resident in New York, we can't sell it to you until one day maybe Ballet can acquire that bit license. So it creates a barrier to entry for new and small companies like Ballet. But in the end, it's good. I think it's good that we have this different regulatory stuff, because you want the free market. What you don't want is very draconian national level stuff where it's like one person says one thing and that's it. And I've seen that in China. I've seen that in China, where there's no innovation in because the US model, because it's a patchwork of all different states, there's actual innovation. There's actually different states are competing to see whose regulatory model is better for its people, right? There is competition. Whereas for a place like China and many other countries where it's more authoritarian, you don't have that. You have just a national policy, and the national policy is usually decided by one person. And so it's one person being told by their advisors, and they could flip, right? If one person's out of power, then it could flip really quickly. And I've seen it happen, sort of getting slapped around back and forth in the regulatory side in China. So I much prefer a more steady, more mature regulatory framework like the US. The Europeans also they're very far ahead, and Africa started to deal with it. So it's gonna take many years. It's gonna take a few decades for it all to come together.
Yeah, well said there. Bobby, we're going to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show, that is Prime XBT. And when we get back, we are going to take a deep dive into Ballet, which is right here, the Unreal cold storage devices. I was fortunate enough to meet Bobby and the team back in May in Austin, and I snagged a couple of these, given a couple to friends. It is absolutely incredible, and we're going to get into this. But until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends of cryptonews.com and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50%, that is 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Bobby. Bobby, let's jump right into it. I'm going to give you the low effort question here on my end. I'm going to ask for the elevator pitch, as you can do a much better job than myself on explaining Ballet. Before you go, my favorite part about this is this is the single easiest and most efficient way to onboard normies to Web3 and to crypto and to get them their first bit of Bitcoin. I love you for this. I wish this was more mainstream. I wish the government would send one of these to friggin' everyone. Obviously, it's a pipe dream. You get what I'm saying. But I'm going to throw the ball over to your court, Bobby. Give us the elevator pitch on Ballet, why you started it, and what you guys are, building and doing right now in the space.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. So you said it very well. This is precisely why I started Ballet, which is to create the vision. Again, I'm a second-time entrepreneur. Okay, we started Ballet in 2019. And my vision was to create a product that allowed normies, like you said, normal people, no coiners, newbies to the crypto market, to allow normal people. And these could be people like your siblings, if you have siblings who are not in the crypto space, if you have parents or even grandparents, or if you're a parent yourself, you might have children, either young children or middle-aged children, teenagers and whatnot. The idea is to allow normal people, again, what I define as almost the non-geeks, the non-computer science nerds, right? The non-crypto hardcore people, to store and self-custody their Bitcoin and cryptocurrency assets. Now think about that. For most people, and I know this from the stats, I've run an exchange myself. I ran one of the world's largest custodial Bitcoin exchanges, BTC China, BTCC, right? So we know, throughout the last decade, when people come on and take the orange pill and buy Bitcoin and buy crypto, mostly they leave it on the exchange. And the problem with that is the most apparent problem people know is, exchanges can get hacked, they can go bankrupt, they can run away, the founders can pretend to die. There's some accusations of some exchange founders who fake their death. But the other unrealized problem that people don't appreciate is not only can the exchange itself have issues, but your individual login account can get hacked. So even if the exchange is very reputable, very stable, like Coinbase, like many others out there, people who have individual accounts on Coinbase or on exchange can get hacked. Identity theft, you lose your phone, you lose your email account access. Hackers can go into your exchange account and drain your account. At that point, you're out of luck. You've lost your life savings. And this could be thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, or even in the millions, right? I know of a real world case of a family friend. She was convinced to buy Bitcoin. This is an elderly woman. She was convinced to buy Bitcoin 10, 11 years ago in 2013, 2014. So she put in $50,000 to buy Bitcoin. And now that Bitcoin, that $50,000, she's a rich lady. So obviously that's a lot of money back then, but she was able to buy 60 Bitcoins. So those 60 Bitcoins today is now worth over, close to $4 million. Okay. Yeah. Thankfully, her coins are still on that exchange account and did not get hacked. But the problem is now she has to go into the exchange account and prove to them that she is who she is. She wants access to her Bitcoin. There's all sorts of KYC. How do you prove to them you are who you are? You've lost your password, you've lost your two-factor authentication, whatnot. So there's just so much to deal with, the so-called custodial exchange. And what I'll tell her is, if you just put on Ballet, then whether you put all that 60 Bitcoin on a single card, or you spread it out over 5 or 10 or 15 cards, then at least you have these cards individually, which you can manage individually, whether you want to pass it down to your children or to your grandchildren as a gift or as an inheritance. And plus these Ballet cards, once they're loaded with Bitcoin, this is a physical bearer asset. What that means is there's no password protection. So now people hear this, people like, oh, there's no password, that's terrible. No, it's actually a good thing. By design, we designed this to be a physical bearer asset. It means that whoever has it, has it. And this is the simplest way, because you don't want to have complex passwords where people take the passwords to the grave. There are many examples. Even David Kleinman, one of the people who a lot of us think is one of the original people behind the Satoshi team, David Kleinman. Yeah. And it's very well known that he had a encrypted USB drive, and he had, thousands or millions, whatever, of 100,000 Bitcoins in there worth billions of dollars. And we think he took it to the grave with him, because his brother and his family, to this day, still cannot access the private keys inside that encrypted drive. So literally, Dave Kleinman took his billions of Bitcoin fortune to the grave with him. And not just him, there are many people who, when you protect it too much, when you add too much complexity, it really defeats the purpose of security. Yeah. So what we created is a very simple product. It's a glorified paper wallet. In this case, it's metal, stainless steel. It comes in the gold, 24 karat gold plated version, or the stainless steel version. And together, they're functionally identical, except the color. This looks nicer, right? That's why I show this version. And the idea is that you load your crypto, and it's a multi-currency. Even though it has a Bitcoin logo on it, it's multi-currency. You can load Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Dogecoin. You load your NFTs. We support all the NFTs. We support over 1,000 different coins and NFTs on the single card, all at the same time. We have a very nice app called Ballet Crypto that you can get from the Apple iTunes or Google Store, and it helps you manage and view and track the balances. We even support the Bitcoin ordinals. You could inscribe. You could take a photo right now and send that photo, publish it, inscribe it onto the Bitcoin blockchain as an ordinal, and send it to this card. It'll hold it for you. And this is cold storage. It means that it's not connected. We're proud that there's no electronics, right? People say, oh, how do I get it out? Do I swipe it? Do I tap it? Do I insert it? Is it chip and pin? Nothing. No, there's no electronics. It's all based on private key. There's a sticker here, QR code underneath, another long wallet passphrase underneath this. So everything's self-contained, but no electronics, because you don't want to get hacked. You don't want to get RFID, NFC hacking. Plus, you don't want a compatibility issue. Imagine if there's a USB plug. What if it's USB-A, USB-C? What happens in 5 years, 10 years, right? And what if it's Bluetooth? Now the latest standard is Bluetooth 4.2 or maybe Bluetooth 5. But in 5, 10 years, it'll be Bluetooth version 12. Will that Bluetooth version 12 computing device be able to communicate with an old school Bluetooth 4.2 device? Right? How about NFC standards? How about RFID? How about USB cables? You don't want a battery in here that can explode or that could discharge. Exactly. Right? You don't want any LCD displays that can crack. Right? This is metal. You can't crack this. You can't destroy this. Right? Literally, you could bury this in the ground in a time capsule, and it'll be available to you in 5, 10, 20 years. Right? So I really wanted to make something that's super reliable and low maintenance. Low maintenance, super reliable, easy to use, great for newbies. And this is what we have created. Yes, Ballet did create the entropy for the private keys. However, what people don't know is Ballet actually doesn't have the private keys, because the actual private keys have not been generated yet. This is what we use. We use industry standard called BIP38. So BIP38 allows you to create entropy. Entropy is just fancy word for random data. So we create 2 sets of entropy, 2 random data. One underneath a sticker here, QR code sticker. The other is underneath this strip of a scratch off. You scratch it off with a coin or something, and there's numbers and letters underneath it. So the 2 pieces of entropy is what allows you, the user, to eventually create and generate your own private key. So the key point there is we create entropy for you to make this symbol, but you will create and generate your private key yourself for the first time ever. And to emphasize, Ballet, we created these 2 parts in different countries. One part is in China, one part is in the US, in here, Las Vegas, Nevada. So the two parts are never combined electronically. They are combined, but only in physical form on this card during the manufacturing process in Las Vegas. But when they're combined, the manufacturing staff, they don't get to see both parts. Okay. So no one, not even me, no one has ever seen both parts, the A and B. So no one has seen both parts. No computer device has seen both parts. The private keys have never been generated. You generate it for the first time. And that's what's really innovative. That's why we've been around for 5 years and none of our wallets have ever been hacked. And no one has ever lost money due to user error either, right? Think about that. Right? Think about all your other electronic hardware wallets, even software wallets. How many people got hacked? How many people got their funds drained? How many people have lost money due to user error mistakes, have sent money to the wrong chain, couldn't get it out? So much have been lost. It's really sad how much crypto people have lost through mismanagement and through bad use and through bad design, frankly. Right? Imagine a firmware update gone wrong. Right? Imagine people losing their 24 recovery phrase, 24-word recovery seed phrase, right? So in fact, if you think about it, a lot of companies out there who sell, electronic, I don't have examples, but electronic hardware wallets, you know what I'm talking about, those big brands, they say, oh, they protect so-and-so percentage of the world's Bitcoin and so on. They secure. The reality is they don't. Because why? Because every one of those wallets depend on a piece of paper that has 12 or 24 words written on it. So those devices are not really securing those Bitcoin. That piece of paper is securing those Bitcoin. Think about it.
It's true.
Right? For every one of those electronic wallets that claim to be securing all the cryptocurrency behind it, the reality is there's a piece of paper with 24 words on it. That's what's securing those. It's like shared custody. It's like all those other electronic wallets are sharing custody with a piece of paper. So they claim to be all secure and tough, but the reality is their other spouse is a piece of paper. So when you have shared custody, it's really weak. But for Ballet card, it's sole custody, meaning that's it. This is it. If you put crypto on here, this card itself is a sole custody of that crypto, not shared custody. Okay, and you have sole custody of it. And we're very proud. We love our product. Our users who have used it love it. That example of the old lady who purchased her Bitcoins, 10 years ago, I plan to encourage her to move her Bitcoin onto these cards. I'm going to give her, half a dozen or so, and then she could split them out onto different cards. She could track it on her mobile app, and one day she could pass it on. She could sell some for retirement. She could use it for retirement, or she could pass it on to her children and grandchildren. It'll be a great story.
I love it. Bobby, you're on a roll here. We are getting a little tight for time, my friend.
Yes.
The one question that I really want to ask you is, I get asked this all the time. I think I do a decent job, definitely not a great job, and definitely nowhere close to as good of a job that you can do. And that question is, Bobby, why should I buy Bitcoin? I get asked this all the time. Matt, you work in crypto. Why should I buy Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin good? Give me the pitch. I want to master this. I'm going to be writing this down. What's the pitch here, Bobby? When someone asks you, Bobby Lee, Bitcoin OG, why in the good Lord should I buy Bitcoin?
The simple answer is, you have to assume people have money first. Okay, if you're poor and you don't have money, you're not making ends meet, then you don't have any leeway to buy Bitcoin. Okay,
Agreed.
But if you have money, the premise is that you've saved the money from working hard in your past. Whether that was last week, you worked hard and you saved $10, $20, $50, $100 for this week, or whether it was last year or last decade,
or before.
You worked hard and you put some savings, okay? So why do people save money? The reason is this concept of delayed gratification. The idea is that rather than spend all your money paycheck to paycheck, the idea is we want to save money because we know, first of all, we need that money later during retirement when we're not working. The other reason is because we think that if we save some money now, that money might grow through investments, so we could take a vacation. So we could take a nicer vacation and get nicer gadgets, whether it's 5 or 10 years later, as opposed to buying everything today, right? So Americans are not very good at this, admittedly, right? Americans are notorious for spending their whole paycheck, right?
Paycheck to paycheck.
Paycheck to paycheck, right? So, but for those of us who have it together, who are not spending your whole paycheck, you have some moderate modest savings in your bank account and you want to invest it, whether it's investing in the bank account, getting a very small interest rate, whether it's buying some CDs, certificate deposits for a more fixed, higher interest rate, or buying stocks, buying bonds. And this again, we're getting complicated now, or buying ETFs, okay? Or even investing in real estate. Why do people invest in real estate, right? Again, it's for the notion of building up the investment value, okay? So again, this is not just for rich people. It's for the working class. It's for the middle of America. If you have savings, you want to invest it properly, okay? So now the pitch comes. Do you want to invest in just a bank CD? Or do you want to invest in an asset class that's going to change the world, that is changing the world, and that's going to truly appreciate much faster than any other asset class? And this is where Bitcoin comes in. I personally think Bitcoin is the greatest investment asset class of our lifetime, people who are alive in this century, okay? So whether you're someone as old as me, I'm going to turn 50 next year, or whether you're a young teenager today, or whether even you're in the 70s and 80s, okay? So if you have the money, put a portion into Bitcoin. I'm not saying put your life savings into it. I'm saying put a small portion. For a lot of people, maybe that's just 1 or 2% of your net wealth. For some of the more adventurous type, you might even go 5 or 10%, right? And the idea is that Bitcoin, the theory is that Bitcoin will outperform as an asset class compared to the other ones, but it's risk adjusted, right? So again, I'm not here talking to you as an investment advisor, but at least I wrote the book, The Promise of Bitcoin, and personally, I'm doing it. I'm investing more in Bitcoin than in the stock market, for example. I'm investing more in Bitcoin than all the other things. But you have to, quote unquote, do your own research and decide what percentage of your savings allocation you're willing to risk putting in Bitcoin. Easily 1 or 2% is not too crazy. And if the 1 or 2% goes up 10 times, then it becomes 10%, right? Or more. So that's the sort of high level perspective.
I love it. Bobby, what an episode. Really appreciate you coming on. I know we barely scratched the surface here. I feel like you could, I know you could literally put on an absolute, 9-hour TED talk on everything Bitcoin investing, cold storage related. But I really appreciate you coming on. Huge shout out to you and the team for making this happen. Before you let us go, can you please let us know, I guess 3 things. 1, any Ballet news coming out in the near future, please let us know. And to finish, please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and Ballet online and on socials.
Yeah. So we recently launched this physical Bitcoin, the 1 million Bitcoin. This is 1,000th of a Bitcoin, 0.001. And then we just announced a smaller denomination called a 250,000 Bitcoin. So again, that's 0.25 MBTC. And we're selling it in person at the Nashville Bitcoin 2024 conference. So come to our booth. We'll have a very nice booth there at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville. We'll be selling those 250,000 Bitcoins, the 1 million Bitcoins, get them. And you can also, if you live in one of those lucky 25 states and regions, you can buy it from our website. Go to bitcoin.ballet.com. But if you live in New York and some of the more onerous states, then unfortunately we can't sell it to you. So you have to wait. You have to get it from someone else, or you have to wait until Ballet is a mega billion-dollar company where we have licenses all over the world.
Everywhere.
Yeah. You can find me on X, Twitter, at Bobby C. Lee, BOBBYCLEE. Also on Instagram, Bobby Lee Bitcoin. Okay. So yeah, that's it.
Love it. And folks, Ballet on Twitter is Ballet Crypto. That is traditional Ballet spelling, BALLET Crypto. And also check out Bitcoin Foundation, which is at BTC Foundation, regular spelling, BTC Foundation online as well. And of course, if you want to snag this book, The Promise of Bitcoin, head on over to Amazon, grab yourself a copy. It literally arrives the next day. Bobby, what a treat. Appreciate you coming on, brother. Love the team, love the product. Big fan of you guys and wishing you guys all the best. Can't wait to have you on for round 2. Until then, bye for now and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Matt.
Folks, what an episode with Bobby Lee, founder and CEO of Ballet. He brought the heat today. We got into some deep Bitcoin stuff, everything Bitcoin ownership, ETFs, custody, regulations in USA and China, one of the best elevator pitches I've ever heard for why should someone buy Bitcoin, some more regulatory landscape, and of course the impacts, long-term effects, and record daily inflows of the Bitcoin ETF. Huge shout out to Bobby and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you did, please do subscribe, as it would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking of the team, love you guys so much. Thank you for everything. Eustace, you are the man as always. And back to the listeners, love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now. Go buy some Bitcoin and we'll talk soon. Love you guys. Ciao.